Holler if you hear me, and welcome to this special video I'm doing because this day, of course, being September 11th, I decided to not do my regularly scheduled Luke Shocks video and instead to do something that would really talk about, at the very least, my own personal experiences with what happened on that day, because it's been 21 years. I know I should have done this on a more even year, like last year would have been the 20th anniversary, would have been a little more relevant, but I think it doesn't matter what the year is, really. When the day happens, ever since 2001, that's a day where it is something that's going to come to mind. It's going to live in infamy. And especially the strange thing is because of how usually it happens around the beginning of football season, I always affiliate this day with football. Another thing I want to bring up is what do I mean by my personal experiences? Well, there was something that happened when I first ever visited New York. I visited New York once, and it was September 2nd and 3rd, 2001. Yes, growing into the city, there I was. Everything I'd seen about New York City from film and TV, getting to see it in person. The strange thing, though, about it was I was always really interested and fixated on the Empire State Building. I wanted to go see the Empire State Building. That's what I wanted to do when going through the city, driven around and looking up at all the tall buildings, and had never seen buildings that tall anywhere before in person. But everywhere I went in the city, wherever you could go in Manhattan, and even if you're out there in New Jersey at the time, you could see the World Trade Center from any perspective, from any angle. You could look up, and in some way, probably unless you had a very specific kind of location you were at, where it was in a certain forced perspective, the World Trade Center was always there. The Twin Towers were always at anywhere you went. So it was them being gone, really, if you're either a New Yorker or if you're somebody who just visited the city, them being gone, that's really that there is that little reminder in the back of your head, or it's a reminder that goes straight into your face and makes you feel horrified that, oh, Lord, yeah, that's what happened. But it still really was strange for me on account of being there only the week before, yes, September 2nd and 3rd. So it's literally the first full week of school. I remember it was, I believe, a Monday, September 11th, I think it was. Usually in the years since then, it's a Sunday. Like I remember for the 10th anniversary, that was the first full week of the NFL, and they had a big moment of silence at the beginning of the game, which, of course, is understandable. They ought to. I would expect that. And now it being a holiday, I believe a Patriots Day, and you look and you really think of, when it comes to respecting those who are lost, mourning lives lost, those to whom it was completely, whatever happens between that government or that religious fundamentalists or one government or another, there's the people out there that's in that city, whatever city, if it's some carpet bombing that's happening without government approval, without congressional approval from American military over people in the Middle East, or if what happened there in September, where it's some people who were just minding their business. What was it, 3,000, I think, New Yorkers what happened to them? I remember that, and in the strangest way, or at least in a way that doesn't quite sound as somebody who's as well informed as they ought to be, was Frank Miller, and talking about what happened when he had only just moved back to New York City during the summer of 2001. It was the summer he moved back, and he started doing that second Dark Knight book, The Dark Knight Strikes Again. And then what was his motivation for creating that comic, Holy Terror, was what he said about how 3,000 of his neighbors were ruthlessly murdered that day. And also how the third and final chapter of Dark Knight Strikes Again was completely rewritten and redrawn, and it became something more of him trying to reflect on what had happened on that day, to the point of even having several pages of the story take place where it's the wreckage of Metropolis after an attack from Brainiac. And we see even a full page where there's that Frank Miller silhouette style of the big metal framing of the Twin Towers, some of the exterior that was still twisted but standing there after it had collapsed, when they showed the firemen putting up the torn flag. And they had people there, other police officers and firemen standing there and trying to give a salute, and a perimeter around where just regular citizens would go and try to see what was going on, or how the way that it collapsed, there was so much debris. I don't believe it was asbestos, but a kind of smoke that just engulfed streets. It was almost like what you could see when people that are fans of horror films, monster films, science fiction films from like pretty much the 80s before, they always tell you about how practical effects are better because practical effects, you're really seeing something on camera. But even then, it's still something fictional. It can be amazing to see a really well done prop, a well done costume or makeup effect, but it's still it's not really there. Like the fog from the 80s, that fog sweeping in over Antonio Bay, it's ominous, it's scary, but it's still just a smoke machine over some miniature props of some city streets. But then you look at that footage that happened that was all over the world news and has been in documentaries since then. That smoke just pouring out towards everybody, and the people running away from it, understandably, because you don't know what kind of fumes be coming from that thing. So, of course, people running away in terror of it like it was the fog from a movie. But no, this is really happening. So there really are 3,000 people that are gone in there. And there's also other people who, before the towers even collapsed, just decided to jump out, like that famous Falling Man picture I remember seeing, I think it was a few days later in Time magazine, where one of the towers, they'd both already been hit, but the guy just decided to just leap. And someone just at that right second caught a picture of him right at that moment, the Falling Man. It's a very simple name. You can look up the photograph yourself to see what I mean when I'm talking about. It was just something where everything associated with that was some kind of combination of disturbing and surreal. Going back to that smoke, it looked like something you would see in a movie. It looked like something you would see in one of those awful Roland Emmerich kind of films like Day After Tomorrow, where you're running away from the tidal wave, or the Independence Day, there's the big lasers that shoot around Empire State Building and the White House. And in LA, there's that big building in Century City. It's like the closest thing to a really tall building they have in LA because of building regulations over how tall they can build things because of earthquakes. But then you're seeing it right there, and it's just horrifying. It's that difference between that reality and what you see in a movie that really gets somebody legitimately disturbed. And the only way a film and a piece of fiction like that can really do it is if they really, really put in the effort in filming something in a way that really makes you think, oh my God, is this some kind of snuff film I'm watching? But then you have even just that little area of the city was just decimated like that. And I can understand why wanting to rebuild the towers is something that a lot of people would have wanted to see. And yes, there is the one tower that was rebuilt in its way. And honestly, I'm on the side of, the whole idea behind why it was done was trying to not just knock the city down, but do something to really put some kind of chaos into the American life. And I really would have wanted to see an example of, no, you tried to destroy this. We're not going to let you have this destroyed. So we'll go and completely rebuild it from top to bottom. I was always, even as a 9-year-old when it happened, was on the side of wanting to see the towers be completely rebuilt. I brought it up in streams before and some other videos. That famous Frenchman who did the tightrope walk between the Twin Towers when they still weren't even fully completed yet, Philippe Petit, and him saying somewhere, of course, because somewhere along the lines of all the news reports are going to be talking about it, one of the first real famous headline to come from the Twin Towers existing, besides their planning and their construction, was him tightrope walking and the big getting a news copter overhead to see him while he was there, the police showing up on both tops of both towers to eventually wait for him to get off. And it was only that it started to rain and he saw a bird flying overhead that spooked him, that then Petit finally decided to go and get off. Because remember, he was a guy who he had already done what he wanted to do, just go across the rope once, but he just in the moment, no. He went and did another 8 passes back and forth until he finally got off. And as the police were grabbing him away, that's not something that the movie with Joseph Gordon-Levitt made up. He really was begging them to not cut it because of all the tension in that kind of suspension cable at that high a distance with the extra suspension they had put in would, if they had just decided to simply cut it, would have legitimately snapped and started slashing people up. So getting the equipment to go and just gradually loosen the tension worked much better. And I'm glad to have seen that, because imagine how dark it would have been there if just a few people, just a few police officers and a few other bystanders had lost their lives associated with the Twin Towers on that day, let alone what would happen decades later. And even things that have absolutely positively nothing to do with wanting to invoke any kind of bad memories, now by association have a bad memory invoked because of just the sight alone. And if there's anything really that happened on that day, it's just seeing the image of the towers alone now is something that does not bring about, a big New York landscape, a big New York tourist tourist attraction, something you'd see if you're like a kid in movies, or even an adult in a film, in Middle America, if you're in any country around the world. And oh yes, that's a big location in Manhattan. I really would want to go there. I'd really want to visit it. Like if I ever got to go to New York, or ever wanted to move there to New York, or ever visit there, that would be a place I'd want to see. I want to go there as much as I'd want to see the Statue of Liberty, as much as I'd want to see Times Square, as much as I would want to see Madison Square Garden, or I already mentioned the Empire State Building, or maybe even the Fullerton Building. It looks very small, and most people my age would recognize it as the Daily Bugle headquarters from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films. But that was at one point the tallest building in Manhattan. Also, the Chrysler Building as well. The Chrysler Building being very much another attraction, but there's even the Empire Diner is one. And this one, not really based on just the city in general, but more of how a TV show made it famous. Tom's Restaurant, the diner from Seinfeld, that's now become, I think, on association of Seinfeld being so popular. That's another location there that you'd go there, or you see a movie, or even if you just see it in the background of a film that takes place in New York and actually bother to film it there instead of Toronto or somewhere else and say, oh, that's Manhattan. I remember going back specifically to what is my connection with the Twin Towers and with 9/11, there was when I visited the city for those couple of days. That was at the time when really the WWF were kind of coming down from the high of the Attitude Era. You remember, this was September, and April 2001 was when they had the WrestleMania, where they had the big Hulk, Stone Cold Steve Austin heel turn that really made the business. That was when it started to go downhill. But building up, they had such a massive boom in popularity that by 1999 there was the WWF Cafe. I remember was its original name. I think they changed it to WWF New York, and one of the things I did when I visited the city was I wanted to go there because I saw that on TV. I was watching wrestling religiously, and I wanted to go to the WWE Cafe. And I remember that's where I had my lunch that day. Of all the major places you could go to eat, of all the like I said, the Empire Diner or Tom's Restaurant or any of those swanky places, you could go to the Plaza Hotel from the Eloise books and Home Alone 2. What's the other one? F.A.O. Schwartz, of course, made famous from Big, and to this day, F.A.O. Schwartz in Manhattan still has that big walk-on piano, and everyone and their brother tries to go and do the little chopstick scene. I remember even one of the Jonas Brothers, TMZ, got him. There he was with cameras all around him doing it, except he's actually trained at dancing, so he could do it well, or at least better than most people just walk out there and they just do that because. And well, remember, this is me. This is being a snotty little 9-year-old who liked wrestling. So I'm gonna go to New York. I want to see Empire State Building and the Plaza Hotel, and it was all the more strange because Home Alone 2 was really the first real film that got me really excited about New York City. And one of the big shots that, understandably so, is a shot that gets removed from when it's shown on TV. And I believe even one of the physical media releases of Home Alone 2 have removed it, is the clip at the end of the big Kevin's enjoying Manhattan by himself. There's the big glory shot with a helicopter of him in the cab going down the Brooklyn Bridge. There he is at the Empire Diner. He gets the fireworks from Chinatown. He sees some other place I'm not quite immediately recalling, but he's taking Polaroids of it. And then what's the big one? The big shot where there he is. He looks up. Oh, God, look how big. I mentioned the Fullerton Building from the Spider-Man movies. At one point, that was New York's tallest building. And put that next to the Twin Towers. That is just like a gnat next to the Twin Towers. It's like King Kong versus Godzilla in their original sizes. And when it comes to now, I mentioned memories have now been tainted because of 9/11, because of what those psychos did, that now the image of the World Trade Center isn't another famous New York landmark that you want to go see and enjoy, but it's something instead that just you go, ooh, or, you get like this. Or I can imagine someone just flat out crying, either just in general getting emotional about it and crying, or say you were the family of somebody out there who was one of those 3,000 people I mentioned, those 3,000 of Frank Miller's neighbors who were ruthlessly put down for something who absolutely had nothing to do with Islam at all, nothing to do with Al-Qaeda, but then there they were, gone because of what those guys did. And another film that also now pretty much its legacy getting tainted is the 70s version of King Kong, where the big climax change is to the World Trade Center instead of the Empire State Building. And the poster for the film even did that, a big painting of there's Kong standing between the Twin Towers. He's got the he's pulling down the Zeppelins and he's going, "Rrr!" That one, that was like a big poster. That was the major hype around the film. And then now it's tainted love. And with Home Alone 2, I know when Freeform shows it around Christmas, they completely chop out the moment of the Twin Towers, where there he is in the big shot. It's like they open the big him going to all the Manhattan locations with a big helicopter shot of him zooming in from all the way out, all the way into the close-up of there's little Macaulay Culkin in the cab on the Brooklyn Bridge. And the end of it, they have a little photo. There he is with his Polaroids going outside, taking photos of the top of the observation deck of the World Trade Center. And then they pan out and out and out to see the whole scale of those towers amongst the entire city and really give you a big glory. Ooh, it opens wide and goes in, and then opens in and goes out wide. But now it's something that you'll pretty much, I think you have to find like a specific kind of physical media release for Home Alone 2 to go and watch that, if you really want to see that now. And as I said about that, yes, it's a bad memory, but also try to erase it from media that already had it. No, because that's another example of they would want what those guys did, what those 19 psychos did. That's another thing of, oh, now that was such a big memory, such a big location. Well, now it's permanently destroyed. It's permanently a humiliation for you. And I think, no, don't do that. Just have it be what it is and what it should be there. Don't erase that memory at all. Let it go, let it hang. It's, I think, an extension of Never Forget, which really is the sentiment that we should have at a moment like that. Do not forget. Do not forget the Twin Towers just in general. Do not forget what happened that day. I mean, that's why I understand why when it comes to films that would show the World Trade Center, or if it's something like that movie The Walk about Philippe Petit and his high wire walk, about why people want to forget it. I say no. Don't turn away from the movie because of what those assholes did and what it does to the legacy of the towers. I would say no, especially the movie itself and what that guy's life was, that the big moment of his life was all dedicated to really loving the Twin Towers and wanting to tribute them and wanting to make them something, I think, magical is what he said. And I certainly agree with that. That's why do not forget, do not move on. And, well, let's just take as I was saying, let's just have a little bit of silence on behalf of those that were gone. It's been 21 years, but it doesn't matter, 21 years, 7 years, 8 years, 33 years. Do not forget. All right. And a little moment of silence starting now. All right, that's 21 years. You know what I got to say about that. Do not forget. Even Michigan Athletics has a little thing up on their website with a Never Forget, a simple American flag going through the crowd. That's something they do regularly at games over there, and I think, yeah, that's... I mean, I get it. And we shouldn't, don't. It's not my opinion. I know I'm right. And I want to thank you all, of course, for watching. If you're a new viewer out there, remember to subscribe. And to returning viewers, double check that you still are subscribed. And both you new and returning viewers can like and share. But also, remember, of course, the best way to help out the channel is shopping my online art store, where I have illustrations for $25 plus shipping. I have color drawings for $20 plus shipping. I also have sketchbooks for $25 plus shipping as well. And do not forget, you can also go and commission me for original pieces of art. A pen and ink commission is $50 plus shipping, and those commissions are the last item you'll see in my illustration categories. There are color drawing commissions as well. They are $25 a piece plus shipping, and they are the last item in my color drawing categories. Yeah, 25 plus shipping. You can also commission a trading card, and trading card commissions are $20 a piece plus shipping, and they're the last item in my coffee sleeve Super Babes category, and those are only $7.50. If you don't feel like commissioning or shopping for anything, you can always simply donate. Donations are the very first thing you see in my store. Any dollar amount from any denomination around the world is accepted and would be a help. Besides that, also remember, whatever you get, if you get one thing or several things, it only comes with a single shipping and handling fee of a flat $5. But if you live outside of the US, my store cannot receive orders for items or for commissions if you live outside of the USA. So if you're a foreigner and you want to commission me or buy my work, you would have to make your payment as a donation. Add up the prices of what you want in US dollars, include another $25 US for the international shipping and handling fee, and you will get your items shipped the next day once you make that payment as a donation. So until then, never forget at all.